All right. Well, good evening. Brandon Jones with News Talk, and hopefully we're going to have a great conversation tonight. I've invited Alex SNITKER to join us. He is the co-host of Unattended Baggage, a podcast, a great show that carries a lot of fun and wit, and definitely not for the kids, but it is definitely entertaining. He's a longtime friend, former Senate candidate to the Libertarian Party, and active member of politics here in Florida. Very knowledgeable of different things that are going on in the culture and the news, and thought we'd kind of toss around some of these type of stories, play with our streaming service a little bit, and give you guys a chance to engage and ask questions from myself and for him as well. So let me check on that and see how that's coming along. And let me see if I can get him the link again and get him all plugged in here. And we'll get this going for you guys. So hopefully you're doing well. I know it's been a busy week for a lot of different folks, and a lot going on in the news. I don't think I want tonight to be a lot about politics per se. I don't want to be getting into the disease conversation, the lockdown conversations, and those kinds of things. I wanted to stick with some other topics and things that just in general, just different things that are going on that you may not really know much about, haven't seen necessarily in the news yourself. So hopefully that's what we'll get to. So if you get a chance, if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe or bounce over there to the News Talk page. Or if you want to support me personally, you can hop on over to the Pops on Pop Culture site and give me a sub there, a like, and some feedback, comments on different videos that we do there. On News Talk, I like to try to focus more on some individual clips and shows and those kinds of things that and not necessarily what's going on maybe on mainstream press, but would be the kind of thing that is, I feel, important for you to be kept up to date on. So, and looks like we got Alex getting ready to go here. Let's get him all plugged in here. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, Brandon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Let me get my headphones in here, make sure I can hear you okay. Oh, there we go. I think we got the microphone on right now. There we go. That's a lot better, isn't it?
Yeah, I can hear you. I heard you before, though.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, hopefully you're doing well and things are going well. So talk to everybody a little bit. What episode of Unattended Baggage are we on now?
I think we're at 108 now.
108. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've been consistent, so that's good. It's good to have that kind of consistency.
I think the last time I was on the show, I think we were like, we're at the turning point of when you get to 13, it becomes for real. I think I was part of the show way back then.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, we're gonna do that point. So, I was saying earlier that I didn't really want to dive deep into politics, hardcore politics, the disease conversation, lockdown. I don't want to get into any of that, but I want to kind of touch on some topics that folks may not see on regular headlines. And you bring such a wealth of, covering the news and culture and those kinds of things. So the first thing was that there's a Forbes article I wanted to touch on. I can share it if we wanted to, but I just want to pull out a couple hot points here from it. It's called the Great Resignation. And Forbes basically talks about in April, there's 4 million jobs that were lost. People resigned in mass. And that a lot of these vacancies have to do with people responding basically to 2020. They enjoyed the flexibility, working remotely, not commuting, office politics, changes in business. Those. My first question to you is that something that you have seen at all? I think for me, I know I still work in an environment where there are still some folks that work remotely, but there's a lot more hybrid work. I haven't really seen a mass exodus, but
If you can still hear me, you froze up.
hiring? Is it a I see again, Alex, but I'm not. There we go. There we go. Must be
All
at
right,
my
I
end.
hear
We've
you
had
now.
a lot of crazy weather down here. So I don't know about you, definitely
Hmm. Yeah, because you're coming in and out real bad. Huh.
terrible problem now. We've got all there. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Keeps pinging. Like I said, I'm going to have to blame.
Huh.
All right. Here we go. All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
That was crazy. I don't know what happened there. I'll have to do some tricky editing and kind of cut all that out. I don't know. We had some crazy weather, but I didn't expect to have any problem. I've done some, just generic streams. Haven't had any issues. So anyway, we'll just kind of do a little quick intro, a little bit of that, and just kind of set up this weird, just crazy resignation story. I don't know if you've heard much about this or what your thoughts are on any of that.
Yeah, no, I have heard about it. And I think it's a combination of a couple different things. One, because we had the pandemic and we had a lot of resetting of the economy, I guess you could say, especially in other states. I mean, Florida, we don't feel it as much, but in other states, it happened a lot more.
Sure.
You had people that decided that, well, I'm going to just try something completely brand new or something different and get away from the current company that I'm at. Even if they weren't even treating you really bad, they still wanted to make a change. And also you had more people doing bonuses. It turned into much more of an employer marketplace where, every employer was looking for people. They were putting out bonuses for people. They were doing a lot of different things. So I think you had a lot of people wanting to make moves. And I think some people just thought that they'd be able to collect unemployment. And I'm sure the federal government was allowing some of that to happen. So I think you're dealt with a combination of a lot of things. And also I think the marketplace was moving towards, people working remotely, people working from home. And the coronavirus, and what it did was just accelerate that to an incredible amount of, incredible speed. And I think you're looking at a lot of combination as to why that happened. And I don't view it necessarily as a good thing or a bad thing. I think it just is what it is.
Do you think that the employees now have a lot more leverage to kind of pick and choose through employers, putting more pressure on them to come up with the right kind of incentives, working remotely options, better benefits, vacations, those kind of, and commuting, right? I was listening to one guy who was talking about commuting. Basically, in some of these big cities, it takes hours to get in and out of a city every day. So you got an hour or so going in, an hour or so going out. You're talking about missing 2-3 hours a day from your family. Yeah, job hunting, especially if the market's this crazy full of openings, it just like seems like I don't know how much. Do you think that the shutdown spell that up? Because you mentioned you think it was inherently moving this direction. I do agree with that, but I think it maybe just kind of accelerated everything.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it did. I think you're going to continue, and I think you're going to continue to see it. I think that when it comes to, I think it gives the employees the advantage right now. I don't know if that's going to last, but I think as of right now, the employee has the advantage. Now, once all the government stimulus and all the government money that they've been putting into this goes away, will it go back to the employer's advantage? Maybe, but maybe not too, because you have a lot more people that are now looking to do more gig work. And gig work is a freedom that we didn't deal with before. It was just, it wasn't just starting with the coronavirus. But again, this is another acceleration thing where it accelerated that with coronavirus. So I think you're going to have a lot more people that are looking to kind of do their own thing and working on particular projects or programs, and to only deal with those things. And I don't know if that's going to end up being better for people or worse. I want to think it's going to be better for people, but at the same time, everybody does have to be a little bit more careful of the contracts that they sign, of the gigs that they do, that they don't undercut themselves, because then they're undercutting the marketplace. So it's tough to see what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a combination of a lot of different things, though.
Do you think that there's, because I think another factor that I think, I'm not sure it's totally a direct linear equivalency to what we're talking about, but I want to know your thoughts on, obviously the schools shutting down dramatically changed folks' focus on someone staying home with the kids and who can work from home, who can't work from home. Do you think that just woke up another portion of the population as well who wanted to reevaluate their job option, so that if there are future shutdowns, or just the idea of their reaction to their experience with the education part of things?
Yeah, I mean, we saw those numbers already. The homeschooling is up. It's going to continue to go up. I think with the I think that the teachers unions have overplayed their hand on this one, because I think that before COVID, I don't think you'd have a lot of parents that are now choosing homeschool would make that decision before. But because the schools just said, we're going to shut down and you need us more than we need you, I think that they're about to be proven wrong. And that is one of the fortunate things that has happened because of this, that you have a lot more parents looking at the online education options, even the ones that are state run and state controlled. There's still state online education options that you can have, but that's just going to be a kind of a temporary thing, because once the student gets good at that, then why do we need you anymore? There's going to be a better place to go to. So I think that hopefully we're witnessing a severe curtailing of the government monopoly that they have on education. And I think some of it's going to be because of their own doing.
But wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that just be great?
Look, I got to tell you, when I first got involved in politics, I was not anti-public school. I really wasn't. I thought there was a place for it. I wasn't really big on homeschooling or anything like that.
Now, I hear the weather now.
I'm so against public schooling right now, it's not even funny. I want nothing to do with it. I think it's done more. If you look at the statistics, if you look at math scores, if you look at the composition work that's being done in these schools, if you look at just talk to your high school student and realize what a failure public education system has been. It's been a complete failure. And the funny thing is that it's been a failure to the lower economic demographic. It hasn't been a failure to rich people. It's been a failure to poor people. The people that they were purportedly supposed to help, they've shown their hand. And it's if that comes out of this, I'm going to be happy as a clam.
Yeah, I think the inner city schools obviously are some of the ones that have been hit the hardest, and it definitely, like you said, accelerated people's exposure to how bad some of the elements were and how easy you could tap into other resources to homeschool your kid. Great question from our friend Bob here at the Outbreak about do we think there's a risk of the U.S. taking Germany's path of outright banning homeschooling as it begins to get more popular and government schools diminish? What are your thoughts?
It's a risk. It's a risk that it's a serious risk, because you've seen the trial balloons getting put up already. I just think that there's too many people that are doing it now, that if the government because here's the thing, you have to look at it. The federal government couldn't do it. There's no way, because the states run education. So it'd have to be a state by state thing. So once you've seen a state or two decide to attack homeschooling, I think that the people that are involved with that are going to really rise up in a way that I don't think you've seen before. So I think anybody anybody in public schooling that's going to tout that is probably not going to make it long. And I just don't think the federal government, they could attach the money to it. They could attach the money and say, well, we're not going to fund, if you guys allow homeschooling in this state, we're not going to attach money to it. But that would go to the Supreme Court. And I just can't see the Supreme Court going that way on it. I mean, even if they pack the court, I just couldn't see the Supreme Court making a rule that would ban homeschooling. And you're going to have a whole lot more people be a whole lot more against government at that point.
Yeah, I think let me know what you think about my scenario. I think the more likely scenario is something that would happen over the course of, let's say, 10 years, where you'll see states start increasing their audit and regulation of homeschooling. Because we do, as a homeschooling parent, I can tell you there's an evaluative process. There's a report that gets filled out. They could mandate standardized testing. They could change the audit process. They could increase checking what people are doing. That would force some folks to get scared, go to public schools or that kind of thing. And then you also could see a state just start to stigmatize and mandate certain types of topics to be taught. And then it kind of minimizes the benefit of homeschooling, where you can have better control of your curriculum, because they're saying, oh no, you have to include this class and that class and this class and this class.
I think that what you're talking about really is the boiling pot theory on it. You know what I mean? Where if it's boiling, you're not going to know that it's boiling. So I think you could start doing that. But I think what you're going to see is a severe pushback immediately. Like I don't think that the homeschooling community in and of itself is going to really give an inch at this point. And I do think they're getting more organized. It'd be easier 10 years ago where you didn't have as much connectivity. But now, because there's so much connectivity that even people that are homeschooling are doing it in co-ops, are doing it in groups, they're doing other things. Like they're still getting that. Like the biggest complaint against homeschooling was that the social interaction isn't there. But because it was a good critique. But at the same time, it's been overcome, though. It wasn't difficult to overcome.
Yeah, my kids were always in extracurricular activities.
Yeah, do a club 3 times a week. You've gotten through the whole social part of it. And the other part of it is that the school, like I've watched some of the, like my son doesn't go to public school. We do homeschool. But I've watched when other kids have done the schoolwork stuff. And I got to tell you, like, I just can't believe the teachers are acting the way that they're acting. And again, you don't want to be too much because at least they're trying. But like
you're so much kinder than I am.
Like they're not. It's not professional at all.
And so what has happened where Alex is the voice of reason in school, radical one, because I have so little respect for these people, folks. Like, okay, so for me in college, the person that is teaching your biology class to your high schooler that I went to college with is the kid that originally started to be pre-med and then either was like, I'm going to go to dentistry school or maybe be a DO and then chiropractic. And then like, just forget it. I got my degree. Now I need a job, and they can become a teacher because they just stunk at what they did. And they're the biology teachers in the front of the room. They are not, again, statistically, there are wonderful teachers. And I have to admit, I went out into the workforce and I ended went back and thought, well, I decided, well,
it froze up again, Brandon, just so you know, in case you can still see me. He must have froze. I wonder if I froze too.
I don't know.
Hold on. I hear you again. Hold on.
There I am.
There you are.
Okay. Yeah, so life lesson. Maybe we shouldn't be doing these when there's a storm. And I have to try to figure out how to get a better connection. So that's okay. Life lessons.
Is it your connection or mine, do you think?
No, I think it's mine, and I think it's because of the weather.
Oh,
because there was a time where we were cruising along well, and then I heard a gust of wind, and it just went whoosh. And I looked out, and then I looked back, and it was swirling. And I was like, "Oh, that probably is what the problem is." So they interrupted my rant, where I was actually the crazy radical, and Alex SNITKER was the calm one about teachers. I don't understand what happened here. Something's wrong in the universe, folks. If the education department's so broken that I am the crazy person who has that, I don't have any respect. It's so few of them that went to school to be teachers. Like out of every, let's say 50, there might be 20 to 25 that were like, I want to be an education teacher. And most of them wanted to teach elementary school. Most of them want to be, kindergarten, first, second grade. You get a couple in elementary school, maybe one crazy person. Like my daughter originally, I think, wanted to do like middle school. Very few people want to be in high school, man. It is like, it's the short straw, in my opinion. But there we go. Yeah, I got some comments from Bob talking about us freezing freezing up. Yeah, Bob, sorry, weather issues, I think. And then, yeah, Alex came back faster than I did. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because it's raining where I am, and some of the weather's creating our problem at our end. So, okay, so let me jump to another topic. The WebMD, and man, if Bob's still listening, I hope he can chime in too. WebMD did this article on the AMA coming out. The American Medical Association came out. This was Monday, and they were about sex should be removed as a legal designation from the public part of birth certificates. And it just goes through the same type of discriminatory stuff that we probably hear elsewhere. If it's already, and I also heard like there was a medical school class they were taking on diversity about not using different language and different. I'm like, the statistics on this is like, we're talking about, they're like 0.001% of the population. And now we're going to redesign birth certificates. We're going to change how doctors are being told to interact with patients. I mean, we have jumped a shark, and I don't know how you come back from this.
I don't understand the birth certificate thing. Like when you're born, either it's based off your plumbing. I mean, I don't understand why this is a thing. I really don't at the end of the day. Look, and here's the thing. I have a child that's transgender. I have talked to this person, and you know what? I think in their own mind and what they're thinking, I think that they can, as an adult, can make whatever decision that they want to make. But are we really going to just not have sex at this point, starting from birth? Like, and the thing is this, like, there's nothing wrong with boys being boys and girls being girls, and that it's a confusing enough time as it is. Are we going to add to that? And I don't think that I don't understand that taking the sex, the biological sex off of the birth certificate. I think
it's literally like to the final straw of like, there's no differences between the two. Like there's such a weird thing now where it's like, I think it's just a show for me to go, listen, we're hands off. There's no differences. Yeah, we're good. Science will just be neutral. And I'm like, so here's my big take on this is that for anyone to make the decision biochemically or whatever to make transitions, whether it be puberty blockers or actual surgeries, there's no go back from that. Like this is stuff that is not an easy reversible thing. We have horrible statistics and horrible things on that we don't know the ramifications of this. This is such a new thing and it's accelerated so quickly. I know there was a case, I don't know if you've heard about this case. It was a little while ago. Person shows up at the hospital, problems with their abdomen, present transgender man, and it ultimately was that the transgender man was pregnant, but they didn't realize, because they didn't say the transgender part, didn't realize it was a pregnancy, and it was losing the baby. So if a doctor walks in a room and I don't know if I should be looking for, cervical issues or, a prostate problem, or if I don't know some of these things, then we're just going to create even a bigger problem.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hear about that story, by the way, but
that's insane, isn't it? That's just insane.
I mean, here's the thing. At a certain point, you have to be honest as to what equipment you got, though. Like,
now, I would think you would just identify, even if you didn't want to say in the lobby, I think once you were called back, you'd say, listen, doc, I'm a transgender man, meaning I'm a woman, therefore, and I still have not, let's say I'm not transsexual, so I still have fallopian tubes, uterus, whatever I have. So there is that potential that if I've engaged in that activity, I could be. It just seemed like common sense to me, but not how the article went down. So Bob asked the impossible question, like, who is anti-science? At this point, I think everybody's anti-science. This is crazy. I don't even know what to say. WebMD publishes it, and it's from the AMA. How do we win that battle? We've lost it all the way around. And then he added, The problem with this is during life, physicians need to know the biological sex for normal values, treatment, etc., and it's dangerous. Exactly where we're at, right? So it's like if you're a physician, you walk in the room and you don't know, like if a transgender woman never admits that they have a prostate, they never get a prostate exam, so we're going to have this huge influx of transgender women that have prostate because they're identifying that way. It's like I don't understand why in the medical community this is the way we want to approach this.
Okay, so I have something that I want to bring up here because I think it's a good spot to bring it up. If you listen to the audio version of The Creature from Jekyll Island, I know this is going to be a weird kind of stretch to go this way, but at the end of the audio version of The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin had a conversation where the people were asking him about, well, what can we do about this? Because this was about the Federal Reserve, right? And what G. Edward Griffin talked about was the power centers. And this is what I think we miss overall, is that all of the power centers have been taken over by people with this kind of woke ideology, whatever you want to call it. That they've taken all of these things over and are now implementing exactly what they want in all of these power centers. So the AMA is a power center. You know what I mean? Like all of these big organizations are power centers. Like the ACLU is a power center where, you know, they used to defend free speech and now they no longer defend free speech. As a matter of fact, I listened to a podcast of one of the old, it was a Jewish guy that was in charge of the ACLU at the time. And he actually was part of the people that defended the Nazis that were going and marching in Chicago or something like that. And was like, well, this is our role, whether we like their speech or don't like their speech. Right. We're there to defend it, and they're no longer in that game anymore. Just like most organizations, what's the one for all the old people?
AARP.
Yeah, the AARP. Like these power centers have been taken over wholesale, and I don't really know how you fix that. That there's no. I don't even think you can go back and retake it over. I don't think that's it. I think you have to just almost form new and let those die. And kind of, I don't want to say start over, but I think with some of those organizations, you're going to have to start over. Like the AMA is just not an organization that's worthy to listen to anymore. When they come out with stuff like this, you have to check them off as, well, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. It's kind of like the same with the, I forget what it's called now, but it's the Wuhan lab thing. There are major media organizations that are actively downplaying the role that the Wuhan lab had in the outbreak of the coronavirus. If they're doing that, I really don't care anymore what else they have to say. They need to go. And I don't want to pass a law that says that they have to go. I want everybody to stop listening to them. They're already really low anyway. Like the numbers are already going low anyway. But they need to be finished off now at this point. We need honest journalism. And I don't care what your ideological bent is. It's that you have to be honest with the facts and to be able to put those facts forward, whether they support your case or whether they don't support your case, is that you need somebody that's going to be an honest arbiter. Because there's some honest arbiters out there that are progressive or that are conservative or that are libertarian or, whatever your political bent is that you notice that there are some people that I think are at least honest players in the game. I put Glenn Greenwald in that circumstance, is that he seems to be pretty honest and upfront about where he's at. So much so that people thought he was defending Trump when in all reality, he doesn't really like Trump, but he at the same time has to kind of lay it out the way it is. The whole Russian collusion thing was all a big nothing burger, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I want to take this. Bob had another one. Look, Harvard Medical School is the one that come with birthing person. Yep. Birthing people.
Harvard, that's another place where if you're
it's like
this, then we just can't, like, we can't trust you anymore. You've gone too far.
I wanted to look this up while we were talking and explain that because I want to ask you if you knew about ESG scores, this whole social governance criteria thing.
Are you talking about the stuff in China?
No, well, that's a different thing. This is actually, it's already in our system.
Oh,
So, it's
I didn't
absolutely
know about it.
insane. Yeah, it's in our financial system. I've gone down the rabbit hole some. Let's see, Bob says basically that other diseases present that differently. It's gender different. So, yeah, basically we talked about that a lot. And that's absolutely right, Bob.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah, the ESG thing is a lot what you're saying. It's like, well, if power structures are already down, and ESG has to do with environment and social governance, and it has to do with the score for financial investment. So if you look up ESG and finance and investment, it starts around 2015, 2016. To me, it explains why a lot of companies have moved very quickly towards diversity and representation. You see it at Disney, you see it at Coke, you see all these different things. And we always thought they were more related to, I think, American politics, but I think it's so much bigger than that. And of course, we've heard about it from China, where it's almost like a crazy exponential scale, and that we're basically headed towards this basically episode of Black Mirror. If you get a chance to Google it, it's just crazy stuff. But you're absolutely right. If power structure and when you eliminate the media sources, people have asked me several times, where do you get your news? And this is why I've kind of dove back into, well, I'll start doing some streams, I'll do some writing, because I feel pretty comfortable about vetting information. And I'm not sure there is a right answer of who's good and who's bad, because there's so much of just mess and noise. Like certain articles on CNN are valid, and there's others that are not. And there's some on MSNBC that are good. I think one of the things I always tell people is this: usually whenever they're talking about it, in a story, there's quotes of what someone said. Do the quotes on their own mirror the headline of the presentation of the article? That kind of helps give you a way to kind of gauge some of the bias, because if you have a post that is trying to be very pro-right or left, but then the quotes that they're using don't match that, then you're probably out of alignment. And I think it's usually pretty easy to tell. These places have really kind of shown their cards in a lot of ways, but now you're factoring in, like I said, I want to go down this rabbit hole because like now we feel like everyone's talking about the disease and the shutdowns and all that. But obviously when you have WebMD and AMA talking about birth certificates, we're talking about, I mean, our institutions and this stuff, we're really farther down this track than I even thought.
Oh yeah, no, we're really, really far down the track at this point. Really far down. But to answer the question on the media sources thing, I think you look more towards individual reporters than you look towards outlets in and of themselves, because those reporters can go other places. So I think you try to find some that give you an overall sense of the news and kind of go from there. But then also, look, I don't want to discount like going to places like NPR, because they're biased, but they still tend to govern themselves by a certain set of rules and a certain kind of truth there. And so you have to become a little bit better at actually reading some of the people that you wouldn't necessarily trust in order to get an idea. It's like what they're not talking about is the things that you got to figure out. And so by kind of dissecting it that way, and just stay away from the editorial boards. Like I think the other thing is
there's not the one waste of time.
Pieces are all, it's all trash. Like there was an Orlando Sentinel editorial board thing where they were talking about like, what a failure DeSantis has been, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever that happens, especially right now, what I go down to look at is, do they actually report the number of deaths? Like they'll report the number of cases, they'll report the number of hospitalizations. Will they report the number of deaths? And in there, how did they report those number of deaths? So in this one, they said deaths are up, 20-something%.
Right.
Now, that's a very misleading thing.
Sure.
Because in all reality, the deaths are so low that if it goes up 5 or 6, that went up 20%.
Yep. We saw this as well. I don't really go on Twitter much, but I did dabble on this one because Tom Woods had commented on it. It was a doctor. It's got all the letters after his name, and he used a photo of Houston Chronicle, and I quickly checked the number, so I don't know where the data came from, but it was Texas has more deaths or something than New York. But as Tom Woods and I basically quickly was like, yeah, but are you dividing by million? Is it per death per million? Like, we can't compare states if we're not going to have some sort of equalizer. You can't just use raw data. So because we have these massive epicenters and concentrations of human beings, it's not fair to use the data unilaterally. But even right now, and if folks, if you're not used to the way the narrative is used, it's like right now, I really didn't want to get into this because it'll just consume all of our time, isn't it? Because it's everywhere. It's so insane that it's all about cases. It's like we're not even talking about anybody. They'll vaguely throw in hospitalization, but we never get figures. We never get good data. And every time I find something I think I have good data, you try to drill down to a hospital and you realize, oh, they're talking about one hospital. There's 9 others in that metropolitan area that someone could go to, right? So if I knew, for instance, in the Tampa Bay area, if I knew Tampa General was overrun or they were being inundated with a lot of cases, well, I'll drive to Lakeland. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes the other direction or something, right? Or I'll go north to Lutz and Spring Hill or something. Like there's so many places that are a few minutes away that it's not necessarily a fair argument because it's more about population densities. So
yeah. Well, look, and to say this way, like the only way that this republic works, right, is with a well-informed public. You know, with you know the information, can make a decision based off
we're
of that.
losing that battle, brother.
But the problem is that we have a media that is anti that. In all reality, they are anti giving you the information and then letting you make up your own mind. They are all about driving a narrative. And if you stray at all from the narrative or even question the narrative at this point, you are labeled with every bad word that they can label you with. You're racist, misogynist, homophobe, anti this, anti that, anti science, anti all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But in all reality, the people that are the biggest threat to the democracy or whatever you want to call it is the media, because they fail to do their job in this process. Everybody's got a role to play, and they had a role to play too. But because they not only failed in their responsibilities, but they purposely failed in their responsibility to actually cover the news in an objective way, and that have done it like activists have done it, that you've caused everybody else to be like, well, we got to get the news from somewhere. Where are we going to get it from? We're not going to get it from this person or this person or this person. We have to go out and find it ourselves. And now that happens, what do? They pressure the social media companies to downgrade their stuff and upgrade their stuff so you can continue to get the news from them, because they know that the gig is up. You know, it was real easy when there was 3 channels, CBS, NBC, ABC, whatever. But now people can go anywhere to get their news. And so now they're like, well, how can we mess with the algorithm in order to do that? Look, just with what you've dealt with Dispatch gives you all the information. I mean, again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you know exactly how the game is played.
They
changed the way during it.
Yeah, I mean, before we were even really as deep and we were interacting with you guys, we had already experienced so much of this. Like the expiration date of news was never greater than like 3 days. You know, 7 days was like the absolute max that a story would even remotely get attention. That cycle now is probably like 12 hours. I mean, they're blowing up stuff. Get attention, trying to get hits. For now, I have to try to research why we blip in and out. And
just so you know, on your end, so
it's
real sketchy, but it's well, now it's out at all. Now you're out all the way. Huh. At least the bottom moniker thing's working. That's pretty cool. Patreon.com/unattended baggage if you want to hear the show with me and Adrian. Little shameless plug while we're at it.
There you are.
Oh, you're back.
I put that in there for you. I make sure I keep you wanting to come back. I wanted to do it again. Yeah, I'm in and out. I'm in and out. So yeah, it's funny. I'm getting used to the little buttons. The sharing the screen thing's a little tricky because you got to go a different mechanism. But yeah, it works all right. So
yeah,
what topics? Go ahead.
it works good for, as the other person on it. It works pretty well.
Okay. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see about maybe setting up a different connection and change the Ethernet connection or something like that. See if that maybe I got a hardwire issue there that would keep us up going, even though the weather is all blippity blip. I don't know. Can't control the weather, but maybe I can control the connection a little bit better.
Yeah. No, it happens.
What do you do to come up with story ideas and parse out things that you want to cover on your show?
All right. So it's a trial process. I mean, don't get me wrong. We go to Drudge. I do the Google News searches. I don't do any. I'm looking. Here's the thing. What I try to do is I try to look at all the stories that are going on and see which ones are the ones that kind of tickle me, like the ones that I like to talk about or that I want to bring up. And we've done this new thing now called the dystopian future chart. And so now we try to find stories that match movies of a dystopian future and give them each points now. So, and that's actually kind of
it's a Mad Max quotient, basically.
Oh yeah.
I always call it the Mad Max quotient.
Yeah. Now, Adrian, in his own way to self-aggrandize, he has some for the Cassandra Trigger, which was his book that he wrote a couple of years back, which I will say very prophetic.
It's a little too disturbing, so we're clear.
I had to really kind of point it out, and I'm really a little pissed off that I didn't do more with other things, considering he had such a key on what was going on. So we do a combination of that, but we've also been doing a lot more of personal stuff, and within each of our own lives, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so we've brought a lot of that stuff up too. And I think that we're always going to do the news, but I think that the personal stuff is taking a much bigger amount than what the news is. Sometimes we'll do 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we didn't even get to a news story yet. Because we only do this podcast once a week. So I don't really consider myself to be, like you're not coming to me for the update news stuff. That's not the realm in which I'm playing in. I'm playing in more of the what's our take on some of this stuff, and maybe stories that you might have missed, and that we're kind of bringing those into the fold a little bit more. But then also some of the major stuff we will talk about. Again, we bring up COVID all the time only because there's always a new wrinkle with it that we can bring up every time to kind of point some of this stuff out. And, Adrian has gone full anarchist at this point. He is 100% anarchist, and I am 90-something% of the way there. But at the same time, you still want to be able to focus on what's going on in Congress, what's going on in Florida, what's going on in this state or this state or this state. And you still want to bring those things up to kind of make sure that you're talking about those issues. But at the same time, a lot of times our conversation ends up being, well, and that's why you should get rid of that agency, or that's why you should get rid of that agency, or that's why you should get rid of that agency. Where now I really am more of a like ATF, all these alphabet organizations. I don't want them anymore. So far, it goes as far as again, this is a little bit of a stretch, but FBI, CIA, those things need serious reforms if you even want to keep them. It seems like every time they do way more harm than good, and that by doing more harm than good, that it's just better to get rid of some of this stuff. Like a Department of Education, which used to be a Republican talking point for Pete's sake of getting rid of it. And with Trump was going in there, boy, I'm like, well, you're going to drain the swamp. Let's get rid of that Department of Education.
No.
Hell no, you're not getting rid of it.
I'm not. So you're going to go 90%. I'm definitely, I've crossed the midpoint topics and issues, but I just can't do it, man. I just can't cooperate with the insanity of everything. And I can credit or blame Michael Malice for some of it, because there were so many seeds being planted on a few of his shows and interviews like that I couldn't refute. So I ended up down the rabbit's hole of reading things I either have never read or hadn't read in a long time. And again, I think the biggest thing for me is we've gotten to a fork in the road that's not about right and left, not about Democrat, Republican. It's about, can you live and let live? I can just not care. I can disapprove. Like, right, okay. I always had this thing with you guys. Remember, I do a show and I always say, remember, the government can only really do a couple of things. It can promote, it can permit, or it can prohibit, right? It can only do these couple of things, right? And the problem is I have to be able to say, well, I can disagree. I'd prefer the government to do X, but if they don't, all right, well, so be. But now I think we're getting close to this massive, well, there definitely is a massive part, but I'm worried about it being a majority thing where most of them will not live and let live. It's like what they want, they need for us, they have to make us do it. Like California can't tolerate that Florida can do things the way we want to do it. And it's just driving them out of their minds.
Yeah, because the thing is this, is that they're already seeing it when it comes to people leaving their state, people leaving New York, people leaving these other states, and they're moving down to Florida. Now, the part that seems to be the crazy part to me on this part, though, is that when these people move down here, somehow they think if they're going to continue to vote for the people they voted for in those old places, that somehow that's not going to be the same result. That's the part I never could totally figure out. But we really need to just, this is the one thing that about the libertarian philosophy, or the philosophy of live and let live, is that if you want to get together with a group of people, form a commune, share all your stuff, and just live that way, there's nothing wrong with that. You can totally do that in a libertarian society because property rights is king, right?
Yep.
The difference is that if you live in a totalitarian society, you have to force everybody else to do what you want them to do. Just like you said, is that it's the force. It's not, it's the doing it with, if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. And I know that everybody's like, well, that's just you're going way down the hole with that. Well, no. At the end of the day, if you want to make a law, the punishment for that law, no matter what that punishment is, can be that they kill you. And that's what you should think about every time you want to make a law against something, is that, do you want to be the person that kills someone if they don't do that?
And they always seem interested in trying to legislate to the dumbest and craziest among us. So for instance, I was dealing with some property right issues. For those of you that, know, I moved 5 counties away from where I was. So I live in the woods. And Dave Reardon hears or watches this. He can vouch. He came up to visit me on Saturday. We were in the woods. His wife got out of the car and said, "How did you ever find this place?" That's how far in the woods I moved. So we were looking, and we were going through the different regulations on adding another home to the property and adding sheds to the property and stuff like that. So we found this lot that was selling sheds, and people had refurbished them so the people who were living in them. They were like little rooms. They have bathrooms, toilets, whatever. And the county is trying to crack down on this. And so what I'm trying to get at is, why? Who cares? So you have some crackpot who's living in a shed. What's the worst thing that happened? They died, and their family's left with this shed that's got something in it. I mean, okay, that's awful. I don't know. Is it better to have them living in the shed than living in the woods? I mean, there's a line that is like, it doesn't connect. They didn't just choose to live in the shed because that was I don't know. It's like, I don't understand the rationale that we suddenly have to now create all these rules for everyone else because of this one person or this one situation. And that's how everything is treated.
Yeah, no, absolutely does. This happened in California. So because they have a very large homeless problem in California. There was a guy, it was a recent article or a recent video. There was a guy that was making little, like, tiny houses. It wasn't even like a tiny house. This is like, you got enough room to sleep in and maybe a little bit more than that. And they were going around taking them away from those people. The other option was that they sleep on the floor outside. And this is the part that this is the part that infuriates me more than anything else, is that they will say that people like me, people like you, are inhumane, or we don't care, or that we somehow want these people to die or something like that. But in all reality, we're the opposite of that. We will show the most compassion because we'll personally show compassion. I don't want to take a gun to someone else's head and say, you're going to pay for this, when I would rather just give you the money out of my own pocket in order to try to help those people. But because the government has a monopoly on violence, And they also want the monopoly on helping people because they want everybody dependent upon the government, is that they will do things that are so counterintuitive to caring about people under the guise of protecting them and taking care of them. They will literally, and they've done this, they have taken people that will go out and feed the homeless. They will put bleach in their food so they can't give it out to anybody. And you're just like, these are just people that go out and want to feed the homeless. Like they're just trying to give these people a meal, like a hot meal one time. And to call that compassion means you don't even remotely understand the definition of it.
Yeah, I can vouch for that too. I know people that have ministry where they go out and cook food, and there's all these rules. They'd get shut down. They'd call health department people out, and they'd be like criticizing the hot dog wasn't warm because they'd wrapped it in foil. But it's been like 4 hours as they're walking, trying to find homeless people to give the food to. So the people that got it in the first hour, it was super hot, it was super fresh. But then 3 hours later, they're still handing out food. It's
and everybody's
makes our head hurt, doesn't it? It just makes your head hurt.
And everybody's had a 4-hour-old hot dog. I got to tell you, they're not that bad. I mean, if you go to 7-Eleven right now, there is a 4-hour hot dog sitting in there with your name on it right now.
We froze for a second there. I missed your 7-Eleven remark.
I made the 7-Eleven joke about the 4-hour hot dog being, at 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but they feed the homeless. I mean, they're all but, and I eat there too, so I really can't be critical. They deep fry chicken wings that are really good, so I don't know what to say.
So, actually, one thing I've been doing now, I actually been doing a lot more preparing of my meals, like during the week. So like on Sunday, I actually prepare the meals and stuff. So like I have a salad with chicken and all this stuff. So that's actually been really good. So I haven't had as much junk food as late as I have in the past.
Oh, good for you! Awesome, proud of you. So I guess we'll wrap. We always like to do fun stuff at the end of the show, and I don't have the notes pulled up. We're having so many tech issues. I won't get to my weird stories. We'll save that for another day because it was just so strange. I don't even know that I totally understand the story. But what are you listening to? What are you watching pop culture wise? I've been doing my Pops videos. I'm going to spend a lot more energy and time doing my pop stuff because I really have awoken. It's kind of like politics is downwind from culture and stuff like that. It's so much worse in comic books and movies and music. And I'm like the perfect gap between the nerdy people and the political people. Like I'm that guy. Like I understand both pieces. And it's just been shocking to see some of the stuff that is in entertainment. Like I will say today, I was listening to an interview and the one person pointed out, because I sat through, you gotta fill for me, Alex. I actually watched part 1 of the new Obama documentary because it had to be released for his birthday. HBO did a 3-part documentary, and it's just a propaganda piece. They don't say anything negative, not a single thing negative. They spend 10 minutes on his 2004 DNC speech. It was rough. It was really, really rough.
I feel for you.
This person,
you're doing yeoman's work right there.
Oh man, it was brutal. My review is just like this 800-word commentary of like, I couldn't believe how much is rammed into this. Like it's just so much. And if you've never read, because I've read most of his book, I didn't read this new book is like 800 pages or some nonsense. I didn't read that. I'm not reading that memoir. I've read Dreams from My Father and stuff like that. But if you haven't, you don't know about some of this stuff. And one of the quotes, he uses the N-word, and I put it in my article, so I'm waiting to get gigged. Bob, if you're still out there, we're going to get flagged because I left it. It is verbatim what is in the documentary and what is in the book. That's not my fault. I'm a reporter.
Yeah.
Today.
I tell you what I've been doing pop culture wise. I am really down the road on country music, and I have been listening to it a lot more than because I use Pandora. So like I use Pandora. If there's one big media tech company that I want to know my likes and dislikes, it's Pandora. Like I totally love Pandora. I do the thumbs ups and thumbs down on all of them. And I've really refined my Chris Stapleton radio station really the way that I like it now. I don't know if anybody else does, but I'm totally digging it. You froze up again. Maybe it's because of Chris Stapleton. Maybe that's what caused you to freeze up on this one. Mm. Oh,
It does say I'm back now.
I'm back. You're
All
back.
right, Chris Stapleton, and dislikes. There I am. Likes and dislikes, Chris Stapleton.
Yes. So I loving country lately for some reason. I don't know why that is. I'm just loving country.
So Chris Stapleton, that's what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know much about it. So hey, this is new for me. Listen, my music is so narrow. It is 90% Christian music. And then like the 10% is like bad 80s music. Well, not all bad. It's not bad to us that grew up in it, but it's bad to the world because they're all like, I don't even know who Frankie Goes to Hollywood is. And I'm like, well, you know, you would if you heard the one song, but there's other songs, by the way. So yeah, that's it. Like I'm like a 90-10, that kind of. So all the other stuff, unless it makes the headline, I have no idea. Could care less about music.
I'm really love. Now, don't get me wrong. Like on my radio for the channel, it goes all the way from Willie Nelson to Randy Travis to George Strait to Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, Chris Stapleton, some of the other new people. I don't know the new names as well as I knew the old names, but it just plays this. It just, you always get some songs. You know what it is? I like the songs that I can sing along to, you know, that are just kind of easy going. So that's been kind of fun lately.
Good. I wish I could say I was having fun diving into my pop culture universe because it's been very frustrating. My most recent story, it was actually the video did well and the story did well. Imagine Garth Brooks had to cancel a concert because some new artist that you've never heard of created a boycott and a protest of some song that was offensive that Garth did 10 years ago.
Oh.
That's pretty much exactly what happened in the comic book world. The guy that did Dark Knight Returns and the famous Batman stories and Daredevil, he's the guy behind 300 and Sin City, those movies. Canceled from doing a show because this little girl who has this little, it's called Short Box, comic printing stuff with all this really cheesy pastels art, said she was offended by something that he wrote after 9/11. Basically got him labeled an Islamophobe and all this nonsense. He's like 70 years old, doesn't care, canceled, whatever. And then she says, typical social justice warrior nonsense. I'm so disgusted. I have to do that. I have to do another video. That's how I'm offended at this woman, because she's a serial problem maker, just like this. She decided she wasn't going to go to the convention. I kid you not. I kid you not. I'm so disgusted with these people. Like, I don't even understand why anyone would ever let her be there. I would never want her back. And that's my argument, because people have done videos and they don't want to mention her name and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. I want everyone to know her name. So when you Google her, you'll know this is what you're getting, because this is what she'll do. Because she'll be offended at something Brandon Jones does or Alex SNITKER does, whatever she can do. Because basically, as I found out, now I do a video, if I get my equipment to work right, already be up. She used it as a chance to raise money for her Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. No,
I kid you not, that's what she did.
No. Look, it's the reason why you also see, like, and I think you see some of this at the Olympics where you'll have.
Oh, yeah. Gwen Berry? Oh.
Something controversial. They're doing it just to get money.
Yeah, she'll be on a Wheaties box or something. Because if they don't, they're racist.
Yep, exactly. You know,
we did her recent statement. She was like, I'm going to do this for oppressed people. You are representing us in the Olympics. What oppressed person are you representing?
Yeah.
I don't even.
No, it's any way to, it's a power grab or a money grab, whichever one you want to call it. But it's utilizing, like, they're not trying to utilize their own talent or to try to, like, just put your opinion out there. You're just kind of acting the fool in order to in order to advance yourself, but then you're so schizophrenic that you won't even do it yourself. Like, I'm not showing up now. Like, it's just,
I'm not going to go. Well, because she wanted her money for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it's like, now she doesn't have to go. She made like 75 grand on Kickstarter by ruining Frank Miller's life. Now, good luck for him. Anytime he gets advice, they're all going to wonder whether or not they're going to have to deal with the drama from the person like this or whatever. From some stupid comic book that it's not even one of the ones that is good. It's just some random thing that he did like 10 years ago or something else. I don't know. I haven't even read it, and I'm that nerd. So, yeah. Well, Alex, we had a good time. I mean, I know we had our tech issues, but we always have a good time.
No, it's good. I did it on my phone, as a matter of fact. So,
okay.
The audio well on the phone, so I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. I'm going to try to play around with it, I think, one more time. I'll reach out to you, see if we want to do it next week or not. We could see if we can figure it out again. I'll try to figure out how to change the hardwire in. Maybe we'll have weather. I don't know. I don't know why we're blipping out, to be honest. It comes up and gives me a little message, and it started pretty early on. And actually, there's still an explanation point on the screen because it lets me know I was supposed to be trying to stream to the Tampa Facebook page, and it popped up and said it can't. So I've got limited streaming capacity and whatever. I don't know. It's at my end. I don't know. I'm going to blame the weather. If not, it's a learning experience.
Yeah, you got to get used to it and stuff like that. It just takes a little bit of time.
It does all sorts of cool stuff. Here, I'll share. Let me share a page so you can see how cool it is. It's kind of neat. It's pretty simple to do, even for someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. So we can both see something. Let me click the right box. Share the screen. So you just come up in here, see the stories.
Oh, wow.
So it's super easy. Yeah, it's super easy to use. You can read stuff together. You can drop videos in there ahead of time. You can play little clips with audio, without. Yeah, to be honest, I found it with the nerds. The nerds got me into it because of how they handle all their stuff, and it's been very interesting. I really have. There's one guy, I kid you not. Some of these people will stream for like hours, like 8 hours. They'll watch like a whole show and talk about it. They'll read something. It's just, and some of it's great. It's so much better than regular television because these people are just completely unhinged. They're only going to make a few dollars here and there by being entertaining. I don't have to deal with all the politics and all the nonsense because if I don't like it, I just leave and do something else. Like, yeah, the age of limitations.
Signed Cedar 3000.
Really, one of them was exactly like that because they watched. Well, I know they watched a lot of shows, but the one I really was fascinated with was one of those comic books I was telling you about, where they were just going like the whole thing, and they would just show you, and they were imitating voices, and it was just. I have to be honest, I consumed probably well over an hour of this nonsense because it was just entertaining, and it was Mystery Science Theater. For the back of that's a great analogy. So we could always do something like that. Wouldn't that be fun? We could do a Mystery Science Theater kind of thing, watch some show or something. We'd have a good time doing stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be fun. It depends.
I wonder what other crazy person. Yeah, I wonder what kind of other crazy person we could get to do it with. It's gonna be fun with like 3 or 4.
Yeah, you got to do it with a couple.
Like just.
2's not bad, but 4 is even better.
Yeah, 4 would be great, especially if you could get people that are just really like they have a good wit about them and just something that didn't teeing it up. If I show you, I'm going to show you I'm going to text you a couple of pictures of this one comic book that we were mocking, and you won't believe it. You will not believe this. It's supposed to be a superhero. You're like, what on earth has happened? Because it's just insane. So, all right, my friend, I guess we should stop. Yeah, we're in the weirdest of weird times. It's insane. It's always good to chat with you, my friend. I'll be in contact with you, and we'll figure something out again.
Have a good evening, Brandon.
You too, man.